When hotel security video surfaced last month showing Kansas City Chiefs running back Kareem Hunt in a physical fight with a woman, it reminded many people of another incident involving an NFL player nearly 5 years ago. You may remember in February 2014, Baltimore Ravens running back Janay Rice was seen dragging his unconscious fiancée out of an elevator. A second video revealed later showed that Rice had punched her and knocked her out in the elevator. His team dropped him and he has not played professional football since. Rice and his fiancée, her name is Janay, married just weeks after the incident, and they now have 2 children. In an interview you'll see only on CBS This Morning, we spoke to Ray and Janay Rice at their Connecticut home last week. We learned how they're making their marriage work and why they stayed together, and how the Kareem Hunt video has affected their lives. So I'm wondering what you thought when you first saw the Kareem Hunt tape.
Well, obviously, you look back and you see their similarities. I knew that our name was going to get brought up in the conversation.
I do think people certainly see you as a poster boy for domestic violence caught in a very graphic way on tape. And how do you feel about that?
Early on, you can feel like, oh, why they keep bringing my name up? You can make excuses, or you can actually do the hard work.
I've heard you say that there are many underlying things. And as you've had time to reflect and really do a deep dive for both of you,
yes.
What was the answer you came up for yourself about the underlying issues?
One of the underlying issues for me was I never wanted to ask for help. Football for me was my counseling. It was my therapy. It was my psychologist. It was everything.
Did you see domestic abuse in your own home when you were growing up?
It was more of my mom going through, a bad relationship. That's when I started to realize I was normalizing abnormal things. Mm-hmm. I was a man at 11, and then at 21, I got drafted and became a boy.
And that was a revelation to you about there are many different kinds of abuse. Is that what you're saying to us?
Yes. That's
and how to process that?
Yes. We didn't have a physical abuse problem, but I can say there were different forms of abuse that took place. Was it emotional, financial? You get to the physical, and that's obviously like, if it's one time, it's still one time too many. I'm
curious, Janay, did you think that you were in an abusive relationship, knowing what he just said, that there are many different forms of abuse?
No, honestly.
You did not?
I just thought we were being a typical, boyfriend and girlfriend. Like we argue and I didn't really sit back and think about it until I was forced to think about it.
Janay Rice has never seen the video from inside the elevator, the one where Ray punches her. I think it's so hard for people to understand why you haven't looked at that tape.
I was there. Yeah. I lived it. I don't really need to relive it over and over again just to appease the world.
You've also said that was the first and only time.
Yes.
Because you know why you have to reassure people and the doubting Thomases? And I would almost put myself in that group because it just defies every statistic in the world about what happens in an abusive situation.
Right.
A, that's the first time, and oh, by the way, just happened to be caught on tape. It had never happened before. And B, 4 years later, that has never happened.
Right. All the naysayers, the people who doubt our genuineness, they could spend an hour with us and they will walk away and say, okay, yeah. That's not who they are.
Say, I get it.
Yeah.
What do you think, Ray, when you look at it now?
I hate that person. I hate him. Somewhere down the line, everybody was saying, does he deserve a second chance for football and this, that, and the other. I actually got my second chance right here.
Oh. With your wife?
During my darkest moments, I used to ask myself, how could she even want to support me? But
a lot of people wondered that.
That's understandable. But I think what's misunderstood about us is that the friends we were before the incident. That's why, like I said, when I look at Kareem's Hunt, I want to know what his life was like. I want to know what happened in life. I know Kareem has apologized and has expressed remorse for the survivors of domestic violence.
But you know what, guys? Apologies mean nothing if people don't feel, A, you've done the work.
You've done the work, yes.
And that you're truly remorseful, and that this isn't just some attempt to get back into football.
Well, see, that for me is something that I understand why was being said early on about, is this a ploy to get back into football? I mean, I'll be the first one to say it. I don't have to retire to tell you I'm done with football. The pressure I was under of being a star, that was the person I hated the most.
Why did you give this man a second chance?
I know it's hard for people to understand.
It is.
And I'm not here to force people to understand. It was never a thought whether I was going to leave or not, because I knew that that wasn't him in that moment. This is somebody I've known since I was 15 years old. I knew that we had work to do, and I was willing to move forward and put in the work.
You said that you don't want to play football again, Ray, but do you think you deserve a second chance?
No, I didn't deserve another chance.
How seriously do you think the NFL is taking domestic abuse?
I've met with them.
Who?
You know,
The
I
NFL?
met with NFL. They're trying to do the right thing. I know they are working with groups to try to get more of an understanding, and they're doing the work.
In addition to Kareem Hunt, the NFL is also dealing with Reuben Foster. Last month, the San Francisco 49ers released the linebacker after a domestic violence arrest. Just days later, the Washington Redskins signed him, though he's ineligible to play or practice with the team while the NFL continues to investigate. How can people take that the NFL is taking abuse against women seriously?
I know the NFL, they're not trying to push people who do bad things or abuse against women. They're not trying to push those guys on the field.
Have you spoken to Kareem Hunt?
No, I haven't.
Do you want to?
I would love to help anyone that's willing to go the long haul.
Well, we reached out to the NFL, which confirmed that Rice shared his story as part of the league's domestic violence education program. The NFL says that Rice has an important message to share and that his commitment is sincere. And if you're a victim of domestic violence and you need help, you can call the National Domestic Violence Hotline. That's 1-800-799-7233. I also thought that his commitment is very sincere. He does a lot of speaking to NFL players and to college players. He's coaching high school football at his old high school. He volunteers there. But I was really impressed with Janay Rice, I have to say. She's not a little mouse burger robot wife, because I couldn't understand after knowing and seeing that video how she was able to take him back. And she says that this was the first and only time. I really pressed them on that, because I said that defies everything that we know about domestic violence in any type of relationship. And they both insist that was the case.
Well, remember, he not only punched her,
Exactly.
he knocked her unconscious.
I know.
The first videotape that we saw was just of Ray Rice dragging her, and then I had that interview with Roger Goodell.
Yes, I remember that.
At the time. But I am glad they seem like they are in a good place in terms
They
of
are,
getting
Norah.
the therapy they
They
need
are.
to discuss this and maybe try and help people learn something more about domestic violence, whether they were a victim of it themselves and then repeated that behavior and how to end it.
Yeah,
And that's what they mean about hard work, to your
Yeah.
point. I mean, they've had extensive counseling. They still have counseling, and they credit the counselor. And another thing I think is very telling, her parents have been married for 30 years, and her parents support their relationship.
And as you pointed out, when people have been giving apologies recently, they have one answer. It's very short, and let me get back to the other thing.
Yes.
There's no way you can sit in that interview and give the answers Ray Rice did,
Yes.
that many answers at that depth without feeling it and feeling it anew.
He didn't run away from it, John, because I sort of had a judgmental attitude, I have to say. But he didn't run away from any of the questions, and they both embraced anything that we wanted to talk about.
To hear him say that he just didn't deserve a second chance
Exactly.
at the NFL was something most people don't expect to hear.
And doesn't want to play football again. And his second chance is she gave him the second chance, and that's what matters to him. You can hear our full interview with Ray and Janay Rice on today's CBS This Morning podcast. It's also available on Apple's podcast app and all major audio platforms.